Hey, Bill. Anytime a team, I mean, I know this happens a lot, but has a new coordinator, you faced them last year, but new coordinator, what kind of goes into the preparation as you try to come up with your game plan?
I think when you change the coordinator, you add the extra level of, the extra layer of not only how much does he maintain from the great defense of the place where he's taking over, but also what might he bring from where he was before. Probably go back to 1997, Cornell University for Ryan. I worked with Ryan. So there's just that unknown. You know, you watch him call preseason games, but who knows what from Atlanta he brings or from his Tampa days that he brings.
You also watch the Atlanta film from last year?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Phil, aside from Donald and Ramsey, obviously those are the starting points, but what else about that defense really jumps out to you when you look at it?
Oh, I think when you watch them, they have a real good philosophy of what they want to be. I do think it starts with the front being able to get pressure, and I think when you go back to our game last year, Donald wasn't the only one. I think that there were multiple guys in the front who were able to have pressure on us. So when you start with the front putting pressure on the quarterback, I think it allows the defense to play, the coverage to play a certain way, because usually the ball's coming out fairly quickly against them, and so that kind of works hand in hand.
The starting offense was not on the field in the preseason. What is your biggest curiosity going into game one? I mean, what do you need to see? What is the most important thing you'll be looking for?
I wasn't thinking of it as curiosity, but there's a lot I need to see for sure. I think when you look at some of the things we committed to improving from last year, I'll put third downs near the top of the list. And I'd say after the preseason on game field, we couldn't say that we've improved that yet. I think we feel better about what we've done on the practice field, but we're going to have to make it count now. So I'd say that was probably at the top of the list.
When you look back at last year, what did you see as a deficiency that was preventing third downs? What did you work on? What needs to be done?
Well, I think when you're ranked as low as we were, that there are multiple things, from protection to people to scheme to all of it. Really, it's hard to be ranked 31st and have a lot of highlights.
If I remember correctly from a lot of their conversations last year, a lot of that had to do with just not getting enough on first and second down too, creating too many third and longs. How do you get ahead of that this year?
Well, I think statistically our average third down wasn't bad last year. I think you look at things like some of the areas. I may be off just a yard or two on the numbers, but if you look in the 3rd and 3, 4, 5, 6 areas where you would say, hey, this isn't the hardest for the offense, those were some of the areas where we were ranked lower. So what you would say theoretically should be easier for the offense, and we didn't excel in those areas. So we spent hours on it. I really don't want to revisit it. I'm looking forward to next week. We'll have some new stuff to talk about. I really don't want to go back to further than we have, because we all know how that story ended.
Well, everybody talks about a lot of people like talking about the quarterbacks, but how important is the running game to the success of the offense? And how confident are you that you're going to be able to get what you want out of the running game?
I feel confident in what I've seen every day at practice and the plan that we have and the guys we have ready to execute it. I think most people would agree that the momentum we gained offensively at the end of the last year, the running game was a part of that. So I expect that's critical. But the flip side is, if we can't run the ball well, we still have to win the game and score points. So there's more than one way to do it. Is it easier when you can do both? Yes. And I think that showed last year. But it's a new year.
What do you like most about 12 personnel?
Well, it depends. It depends who your tight ends are, and it depends what the defense is doing to it. So, for example, it's about the matchups that they put in the game when you put it in the game. So if they put matchups that lean towards you being better passing than defending the pass, or if they put matchups that lean towards you be better running than them defending the run. So this is a multiple defensive personnel team. So in other words, they'll play 3 down linemen, 2 big outside backers, 2 inside backers. They'll take 1 inside backer out to go nickel, or they'll take a D lineman out to go nickel. They'll play the different defensive fronts against Tigers, so they won't, I think in the NFL, what we saw last year was when we were on the field in, 12 personnel, when we were on the field, we got about 50% of the time teams stayed with their base defense on the field. About 50% of the time they went nickel defense against us. Whereas in the past, teams would be way more likely to stay with their base defense when you have 2 tight ends. I just think the way the NFL is going, people throwing more, if you have a tight end pass threat out there, defenses are quicker to go nickel and put a 5th defensive back in the game. So that, at least the teams that we played last year, that was a big tendency shift.
With 5 of them, you've got to do 12 or something else to really get a lot out of that position, right?
Believe it or not, when we went 3 tight ends in the game, we were close to 50% nickel. Now, some of that was the teams that we played that just were stubborn to keep 5 DBs on the field. So you have to have a plan whichever way they go. That's, I guess, a little bit of the cat and mouse game. And again, in the past, this defense has subbed defensive personnel quite a bit. We don't know what Raheem will do.
Bill, red zone was obviously another area of emphasis coming out of 2020. What indicators have you seen, without giving away scheme, that tell you that progress can be made in that area?
I have confidence in how we progressed in the passing game and practice in the red zone. I think you all were probably witness to some good practices down there that our quarterbacks and pass catchers had. I think we tried to zero in on the concepts in practice that we felt confident we could carry through the year. Not every concept's good against every defense, but if you start with kind of your staples, your things that you feel like have an answer versus everything, get really good at those, and build confidence in it, then I think they can carry the bulk of your red zone through the year. And so we feel really good about how that went in training camp.
So you reduced volume of concepts, or just zeroed in on things that you felt stronger about?
I think overall, we did not reduce. I think we emphasized within it. You still have to have the multiplicity to attack different defenses and to make it hard on the defense. But some of those won't be good every single week based on what you face. So I think we focused on the core of what we want to do in the red zone, and but still hopefully did a good job deciding what the periphery plays were so that they're ready when we need them.
Have you seen Andy's confidence kind of change the mood of the offense or affect, the other offensive players in any tangible way?
I think I've seen his play speed affect the offense. I think I've seen his cadence affect the offense, his tempo in and out of the huddle affect the offense, and there's no doubt that his confidence has affected the offense. If whether it be in a walkthrough, in the walkthroughs we tend to give them really difficult things when it comes to blitzes and situations from the defense. It's hard to put something up there that he hasn't faced at some point. Not that we are going to have the same answer for it that he has, but there tends to be very little panic from a guy who's faced it before and has had success. And that's just kind of what he brings to the table. So I think that kind of gets pushed on to everybody when the guy calling the plays, or even if something gets messed up, says, wait a second, we can do it this way, and he has an answer ready. He's learned the language and the different tools we have to respond to problems, and he's ready to apply them. And again, a lot of it is because he's had to before, and so I think the guys understand that.
Bill, do you think that you guys can run everything you want to run offensively, considering some of the concerns about the offensive line? Are there any limitations because of that?
Well, I think it's a trick question, because I think you go into every game looking at what your matchups are and looking at you always have to do what's best for the people we have. So the question as far as everything that we want to do, what we want to do is score however we have to. So I think you have to go into the season and each game being smart about, okay, what's the best thing for the guys we have? So I think we can find plenty with who we have to score plenty of points. That's how we're operating.
Bill, when you look at the long list of quarterbacks that you've worked with over your career, what would you say set Andy Dalton apart? From your years with him in Cincinnati, you would say, I've loved working with Andy Dalton because...
Well, I don't want to compare them, 'cause I hate comparing players, but the things I would say really stand out about Andy would be his competitiveness and his poise and ability in pressure situations to operate. You know, I think of the end of some really close games that he's come back and won at the end in 2-minute situations. And he just kind of operates the same all the time as far as calling the plays, operating the offense, and being able to play in those pressure situations. But his competitiveness I think is definitely special, and hopefully when the real lights are on and we're going on Sunday night, that shows up for everybody, and it spreads.
What is that specifically in those pressure situations? You're talking about late game situations, I assume times when there's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of pressure in the pocket. What is it that gives him the clarity to not panic and to see exactly what needs to be done in those scenarios?
Well, I would be guessing, because I wasn't with him when he was younger, because by the time I got to him in 2016, he had it. You know, so I didn't help develop it at that point. I saw it, and it was fun. It's been fun to watch. So I think when that happens, some of it's probably internal, some of it's probably what he's brought to the table. Maybe just like our kids are hopefully are learning that on Friday nights. Maybe somewhere down the line he picked that up, and from a coach, from a program he was in that had a winning tradition, that was able to do it through college, you know, maybe early in his NFL career. I think it's probably a mix of when he was, playing horse in somebody's driveway and the competitiveness he had there, and then applying it and proving it over time. Because, it's hard to build confidence in someone. They kind of have to earn it themselves. And I think so somewhere down the line, he earned it.
You coached us working at Cornell, right? What was it like then? And you kind of joked you go back far, but is there anything you learned about him then that when you face him in the pros, it factors in to what you think he may do?
I think he's probably going to surprise us going back to some of that Cornell 1997 defense. He's obviously that was a long time ago, and I was just joking about it. But I know Raheem, I think, well enough to know. Just like when we faced them last year, they had a base defense that they ran, and then we walked out on the field, and they did some things that were different because he's an NFL coach. He studied us. He tried to take away the things he thought were best from us in the run game, and he was successful in some of it. He tried to put some different pressures on us to affect us in the pass game. At times he was effective with it. And so I think he'll do the same thing. I mean, he's whatever amount of their defense he keeps and he changes is fine. But at the same time, I know that he's studying us, and they're going to do what they think is best to stop us. So I respect what he's done.
Thank you.